And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Joining us now, Tara Ross, to talk a little bit about, well, the Electoral College. We hear so much about it. Kamala Harris, all these other folks jumping in, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and others getting ready for the presidential campaign. People saying that if it were the popular vote, Hillary Clinton would have won. But we have the vaunted and blessed Electoral College. What makes it so special? Joining us now, Tara Ross, author of the indispensable Electoral College. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning.
So the Electoral College, what don't a lot of folks understand about it, and why is it often vilified by our friends, or maybe not our friends, in the media?
Well, I think the number one misunderstanding is people think that the founders created the Electoral College because we didn't have the internet yet, or because it was hard to travel, or because communications were difficult. The truth of the matter is that the founders created the Electoral College because they understood human nature. They understood that power corrupts. They understood that left to their own devices, large states would bully the small states into submission, so to speak. They understood that these dynamics of human institutions. And so they wanted to create checks and balances in their Constitution, as we have all heard so many times, and the Electoral College is just one of these.
Indeed. You ever wonder what the founders would have done if they would have figured out the world of social media? I mean, heck, we live in it. We don't know. We don't know what's
right?
next, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't know quite what to do with us right now in some of those regards. But look, they lived at a time that was a really unique moment in time. I think we are too blasé about that sometimes. But there was no Democratic Party, there was no Republican Party, there was no political bias like that, the kind that we experience today. Their biggest bias, to the degree they had one, was in favor of their states, large or small. And if you look at the division of the conversations at the Constitutional Convention, that's what they were talking about, large versus small states. How do you balance power in a country that is so, they said, so large and diverse with 13 states? Of course, now we have 50. It's so large and diverse, and you've got these different states that are retaining a part of their sovereignty and making their own decisions. How do you balance that power? It was a really difficult topic that faced them, but they had studied the works of philosophers of their day. They knew the history of failed Greek and Roman republics and democracies. These are things that we don't know. We tend to be pretty uneducated on it, but they were steeped in it, and they really knew and understood it, and they used the lessons of history to figure out what kind of experiment in self-governance they were going to create. And so, and of course, that's how we got our Constitution. But the Electoral College was a compromise between large and small states, and I think it's worked really well.
What do you say to people that want to blow it up?
Study history. I mean, literally, I would just say go study it, go learn about it. I mean, I will say from my own perspective, I had no idea what I didn't know. You know, when I first started studying this, which was in law school, I had no idea that I was not full, that I didn't know. I just didn't know. I mean, I kind of knew we voted as states, I guess. I watched the news like anybody else, but I didn't understand the ins and outs. I didn't understand what the founders were thinking. I didn't understand, historically speaking, how many elections this has actually really worked to our advantage. There are so many elections in the late 1800s, which, by the way, I think is a period of time that is very similar to the one we're in today. The elections were close. It was divided. There were elections where the winner of the national popular vote and the winner of the Electoral College vote were not the same. Multiple elections like that. This all sounds familiar, right?
Right.
The Electoral College pulled us out of that time, and the reason that it did that was because it forces coalition building. It forces candidates to reach out across state and regional lines. It forces candidates to think about people that aren't necessarily just like themselves. Without those dynamics in the Electoral College, of course, the natural human tendency is just to go to your safe spot. If you're a Democrat, maybe you run out to L.A. or San Francisco. If you're a Republican, maybe you run out to Dallas or Houston and just get as much support as you possibly can. And that's a dangerous situation. So the Electoral College historically has really helped us to come together, even at moments in our history when we wanted to do anything else but actually get along. It's a terrible time to get rid of the Electoral College right now.
Right. Yeah. Why do you think people are always advocating that? Why is the media, when they go, well, if we didn't have the Electoral College, the real winner would be Hillary Clinton or Al Gore or something of that nature?
Some of it, I think, is partisan, and the Constitution has become perceived as partisan, which is really unfortunate because it's just not. I mean, it rewards the best coalition builder historically. I do think both parties are doing a pretty bad job right now. Nobody's really building coalitions like they could. I think what would be better, instead of complaining and grousing around about how one person won the popular vote and didn't win the Electoral College vote, it would be better to look inward and to think about what can we do to fix things. I think both parties could do that. I think Republicans could start thinking about how can we be more like Reagan, and we'll start winning in those kinds of landslides that Reagan won in all the time. If Democrats start thinking about how can I be more like FDR, who was a coalition builder and brought people together. Both of those presidents, what they had in common, they were different political parties, but what they had in common was that they focused on American similarities, the things that we celebrate together, the things that we believe together, maybe, standing up against foreign threats together and that sort of thing. Both of those presidents were really, really good at that. And, of course, both won in massive landslides. And that stuff can happen again, but we have to start thinking about, we're so focused right now on just proving the other party's wrong or something, and nobody's really stopping to think about these other things.
What about the media's role in this?
Well,
I don't see, besides you, Tara, I don't see a lot of people advocating for the Electoral College. Now, as someone who is an Alexander Hamilton fan, I'm all about the Electoral College, and I think that it's the beauty of our Constitution is no matter how diverse or how fragmented we are and how vilified our founding fathers have become, look at this beautiful system that we still have today, thanks to them.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why the media doesn't. Why do they do anything? I don't know.
Sure.
But I just think there's a lot of misunderstanding in our country about this system, and so people go with the conventional wisdom. I mean, right now the so-called conventional wisdom, I should say, and right now people think, well, the Electoral College outdated and it's just a relic of slavery anyway. Let's get rid of it.
Sure.
And it's just not right. And if again, like I said, if you look at the Constitutional Convention, it wasn't a huge debate between slave and not slave states. It was a debate between large and small states. And the small states, there were states that were large, more pro-slave than others and more free than others. And the large states, the same thing. A state like Virginia that was more pro-slavery, states like New York and Pennsylvania that weren't. It wasn't about slavery versus not slavery. It was about the size of the state and the dynamics of governing, in that kind of a situation. So, but people don't stop to take time and look and read and study, and instead they think they've heard a soundbite and they think it's true, and so they repeat it and move on.
Right. What did you learn about the Electoral College in your research for this book? What was the most fascinating part of it? How did they come up with the system?
So I've been studying this system for nearly 20 years, and so and this is in my latest book. I was really focused on 2016 and what happened and why are we so divided when the system encourages coalition building? How can this be? So I did learn a lot about the states and the different kinds of roles that states used to play in our elections and the responsibility that states used to take for ensuring good candidates, good outcomes, and it could be anything from they left Grover Cleveland off the ballot because they didn't agree with his position on a financial issue, basically, or there was a state that, there were several states actually that let women vote long before the rest of the country just because they thought it was a good idea. It wasn't in the Constitution. They just wanted to do it. States used to be very proactive about showing their beliefs and their priorities in the presidential election system. And I just found it really interesting that we are now in a point where we've centralized everything so much. We just keep centralizing more and more and more, whether it's in the mainstream media or in our presidential debate system or whatever it is in our political parties. Maybe it's not surprising that the more that we stray from the founders' decentralized presidential election system, kind of their vision for that, maybe it's not surprising that we are now more and more divided and angry and kind of at each other's throats all the time. And maybe the cure is just to kind of go back to that, to remind the states how much responsibility they have in the primary process or the presidential election process. There's a lot of freedom in our system, and it's worked really well for us historically.
All right, Tara, if people want to get a hold of you or your book, what can they do?
You can go to taraross.com, T-A-R-A Ross.com, and there's all sorts of stuff. My books there. They're on Amazon, of course. But I just encourage people to learn about the Electoral College one way or another, because you'll be surprised at what you find.
All right. Well, we appreciate you. The next time you're around, come on up to Idaho.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:16. Top local story here. Thanks to our news partners at Channel 7. Remember, when you hear Channel 7 on the radio, you're listening to their official home on the radio. That is KIDO Talk Radio. And, they've got a couple stories here about this large drug bust. And I want to thank law enforcement. I want to look. We talk about this program. It is a radio show, and we understand that, and we try not to take ourselves too seriously. However, on the other hand, when it comes to thanking law enforcement, when it comes to supporting law enforcement, when it comes to making the Treasure Valley better, we don't have a problem with that at all. We gladly thank law enforcement for the largest drug bust in state history. Now, you have the defense in this situation saying that this drug bust was a big truck full of hemp. And in Idaho, you're not allowed to be driving the hemp through the state, that sort of thing. I guess you can grow hemp, but you can't transport it. We'll have to talk to our lawyers and that sort of thing on that. But thank you, law enforcement, for busting this person. Now, he says that it's not marijuana. He says that it's hemp, and hemp is legal, at least according to some folks. So we're going to get the story on that. Also, from our friends, our news partners at Channel 7, we're going to have this issue involving, the difference between hemp and marijuana. But as I told you yesterday, I proudly support Governor Little and our way of saying no to legalized weed. Now, if this truck driver was driving hemp through the state and he has to get a citation, so be it. And let that be a warning to all promoters of hemp. It just ain't happening here in the state of Idaho. So that's one topic. We'll get to that in a minute. I do want to publicly and personally invite you to our State of the Union party. It will be on February 5th. That's this Tuesday. We're going to be at Dave & Buster's. Sorry, Nancy Pelosi. You could not stop us. You could not stop the great Americans that listen to this program. You could not stop us from having good food, good fun, and a post-State of the Union party rivaled by none in the country of America. Certainly not in the Treasure Valley, where we'll be at Dave & Buster's. I get there around 6 o'clock, and we're going to watch the president. Hopefully, we'll fill the place up as we always do. If not, we'll be in the little room, which will be about 200 people. If you would like to join us, 208-901-3800. And if you're kind of like me, that your best friend, when growing up, either had four legs or was a transistor radio. Now it's an app, KIDOTalkRadio.com. You can get the app. You can get it on your phone, whatever. But if you still love the power of the spoken word, you're new to the Treasure Valley or not so new, you think to yourself, well, maybe I should go. Whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, you can sit back and have fun. It's a great way to get to know people here in our wonderful state. Dave & Buster's, you're not going to want to miss it. I'll give you that number again coming up. That phone number, 208-901-3800. We hope to see you there. By the way, you're going to love this. Idaho State Police say troopers made the biggest marijuana bust in the agency's known history after a semi-truck allegedly filled with over 67 pounds of marijuana plants was stopped between Boise and Mountain Home on Thursday. Now, you remember retired Idaho National Guard Colonel Tim Marsano. You remember Tim Marsano. Well, he's got a new job working at ISP, said the truck was driving from Portland, was stopped on January 24th as part of a routine random commercial vehicle safety inspection. The driver of the bill said that the details of the cargo of the shipment said the trailer was carrying 31 bags of hemp. Marsano said the troopers detected a strong odor of marijuana during the inspection. So they opened one of the bags and performed a field test which showed the plants to be marijuana. Now, you've got a 36-year-old man. He's been arrested and charged with felony marijuana trafficking. Now, the bottom line here at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I can't wait to hear this Channel 7 report, but this guy says it's hemp. Now, I know we have one hemp expert, and we'll see if he will call and join us, but a new federal law is causing some confusion as to whether hemp is legal in Idaho. We'll get the answers from Channel 7, but we'll get your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We've also got the Roger Stone situation. He was arraigned yesterday. We'll get your reaction to that. We'll get your reaction to the witch hunt in Washington. But back to this issue concerning the drugs. I know it's a little early. It's 6:22. But the idea of the drug trafficking that goes through our state, we have a beautiful state. We have a lovely state. It's an awesome state. But that doesn't mean that we're immune to the drugs, right? To the big drugs. And this is why I proudly partner with our friends at Drug Free Idaho and everywhere else to say no to the hemp, no to the shemp, and no to the dope. Okay, you've heard enough of me. We'll talk to you next. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Brother Hannity. Don't forget Lars Larson right after Sean. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:25. Let's go to Jeremy in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jeremy.
Morning. I'd just like to say there's like hemp. The difference between hemp and marijuana is huge. I know they're both. It's a male plant, and the type of weed that marijuana that people smoke is a female plant, and there's just so much difference between the two. Like hemp is a product that you can make a lot of different things with, like ink, fuel, rope, paper, and you can't get high from it. Now the female plant is what everybody smokes, and it's the buds, and it's the DuPont company back in the day that created marijuana madness and wanted to illegalize the hemp because they wouldn't be able to make as much money if farmers were growing hemp all the time to make all these different products. And that's all I got to say is, I feel bad for that truck driver. What he was hauling was not marijuana that people get high from and get all whacked out on, but that somebody could make cheap clothing with. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Your voice is the place to be heard right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Jeremy, appreciate that. Matt, Ron, Tom Munns, hang on. First, traffic and weather together.
What's Eric Gebert?
Appreciate it, Larry. We're talking about hemp versus marijuana, and apparently we have a lot of hemp experts, and I appreciate that. I am gleefully ignorant on the topic of both. We'll continue to take your calls. Let's go to Caldwell. Matt, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, I just wanted to say there's nothing random about an Idaho State Police pulling you over. They get this nice little deal when they pull up your registration and stuff. It shows you where you're from, what kind of company you haul for, unless you're an independent operator. And I'm pretty sure something must have tipped off that officer when he pulled up his information to condone such a pullover event. I'm proud that he did that because, when your bill of lading just says hemp and it doesn't give you a very descriptive product of origin or anything like that, that's borderlines for inspection. You can't just be very vague on those details. Anyway, if you look at it, from watching on the news this morning, it was not hemp. They were buds, and buds that people smoke. Hemp is a leaf. It's not or a fibrous substance. It is not a bud, which I thought was funny. So I'm proud that they see such a huge amount of drugs because obviously they lied on the bill of lading. The truck driver must have known what was going on, and I don't see any problem with the officer doing his job.
I appreciate that, Matt. Thank you for the insight on how the ISP did this. Appreciate you, brother.
No problem.
All right. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Quickly to Ron in Caldwell. Ron, good morning.
Yeah, Kevin, there must be a way to get them to go around the state or something so they don't come through the state. That way, here in Canyon County, we won't have to build a new jail, and here in Idaho, a new prison, so we can put them in there because they're such dangerous criminals, those guys, you know. But anyway, that's my 2 cents about it. Have a good morning.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate you. More of your calls next. Coming up, Liberal Steve, Ted, Tom Munns, Bill, and Fallon. All that and more. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And much to Nancy Pelosi's chagrin, we're back, America. The State of the Union Watch Party at Dave & Buster's in Boise. I keep wanting to say Dave & Buster's in Meridian for some reason, but Dave & Buster's in Boise. That number to RSVP, 208-901-3800. That's 208-901-3800. Coming up next, our conversation concerning hemp versus marijuana. Stay with me first. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, is your proud home for Fox News on the radio. We exclusively go to Washington, D.C. to see to hear, not see, to hear our great friend Rachel Sutherland live right on Capitol Hill, literally a stone's throw away from the big house. Good morning, Rachel.
Hey, good morning.
Good to have you with us here. And as we, kind of rustle up and get ready for the State of Union, before we get to our topic at hand, I have to ask you, I'm waiting for your book on the Trump White House. Everybody's writing one, it seems.
Well, I don't know. I haven't had quite the time to start that project yet. But, yeah, some people are putting out books very, very fast. But now I'm just covering the day-to-day stuff and the State of the Union coming up, and a lot of people are going to be watching, even if they don't even like President Trump. It's that kind of thing. And you would imagine he'd talk a lot about border security, and this comes as a conference committee meets today to start talking about reaching some kind of a compromise legislation that the president will sign. And I don't know if they can do that because of the president basically tweeting this morning, if you're not talking about wall funding, it's a waste of time. And
Kevin McCarthy yesterday, it's kind of weird. Well, the president may say a wall, but he doesn't really mean a wall. We're talking about a barrier. A barrier, not a wall. And you're going...
Well, even the president has said, call it whatever you want to call it.
Right, but then he's going back to, but I mean the wall, but I don't mean
the wall. But he means the wall. Yeah, it does make it a little tougher to come to an agreement if you're not sure what you're agreeing on. I think that needs to be crystal clear if the negotiators can sit down and say, okay, this is going to be a fence, a barrier, a variety of things,
sure,
and then call it something. And it might do well not to really call it a WALL because people get really upset about it. Maybe the way to win Democrats is to call it something else completely. But even then, you've got the House Speaker saying that really any kind of barrier or wall is immoral. So that's really a far way for her to come. And both sides need to win something and walk away with something in their goodie bag. You can't have one or the other just completely not getting what they want. That's where you have a stalemate.
And certainly it does have an impact, and I'm sure the State of the Union will be one of the most listened to and one of the most watched in recent history. So what about security? We've got people coming in. They're going to meet. They're going to talk to Congress about the ever-increasing threats against our country today.
Well, that happened actually yesterday. This is a regular briefing that's given to the Senate Intelligence Committee, the nation's intelligence officials, updating them. The Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, hit on a few things, one of them having to do with North Korea. He's saying that they haven't been doing any nuclear testing or any kind of missile testing in agreement with this Singapore summit, but he did break with the Trump administration in saying that he doesn't believe that North Korea will ever willingly just give up its nuclear capabilities because the regime sees it as central to its survival. So that was one difference. And the president tweeting about North Korea today, saying he's looking forward to another summit with Kim Jong-un. That progress is being made. He didn't mention Dan Coats, but it seems to be kind of in response to what Coats was saying.
Rachel, as always, we appreciate you. Stay warm.
All right, you too.
Thank you, Rachel. Rachel Sutherland. All right, let's get back to it, shall we? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you're just tuning in, I'm applauding the state police for busting the truck driver for allegedly the largest pot bust in Idaho history. He says it's hemp, and that's where we are. Jason in Meridian, thank you for joining us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Jason. Thanks for your patience.
No problem. How you doing, Kevin?
Not bad for a chilly morning. And you?
I'm the same. A little cold out there. Hey, I just called in because I just found out, I don't know if you've heard the news, but hemp is actually now legal. Actually, President Trump signed that into law. I believe it was December 22nd, part of the Farm Bill.
Right.
So, and I heard on the KTVB News there on KIDO that they're going to be doing some lab testing. So if it tests as female plant, she's going to jail. But if it tests out as hemp, then he's good to go. So maybe the state troopers didn't get the memo, but hemp is now legal in all 50 states.
There's that federalism thing again. You're talking about the 2018 Farm Bill that takes hemp off the controlled substance list and making it legal to transport. Now, in Idaho, though, and I'm looking at the same Channel 7 reporting, our laws don't match the federal counterpart. It's like the exact opposite of when it comes to marijuana, it seems.
Well, then I guess that guy would have to take it to federal court, and he would win on the federal side. But if he takes it to the state side, he's probably,
he's doing time.
Well, the state police is state, so he can take it from the state to the federal court. So
now I didn't even know there was such thing as a male and female plants.
Yes, there is.
We have a lot of experts in.
You cannot get high off of hemp. It's just impossible.
Is that the voice of experience?
No, it's just I've known people who
have tried.
who deal into that kind of stuff. But yeah, you could smoke it all day, you would never get high. But there's a lot of good beneficial things for hemp. You can make just about anything from it. You can make oil out of it. You can make vehicles. It's light. It's as strong as steel and lighter than steel. It's got a million different uses, for using it. You can make clothes out of it. You name it. You
Sure.
can do it. And then not to mention the CBD oil, which has got a lot of, health benefits to it. I don't agree with the smoking aspect of it, but, if you could regulate it, then, I'm all for it. But I'm not into the legalization of smoking it. Unless it's for medical reasons.
Jason, we appreciate you joining us this morning, and thank you again for waiting, sir.
Not a problem. You have a good day.
You too.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you, Jason in Meridian. By the way, remember, we're going to be at Dave & Buster's Tuesday night, 208-901-3800, State of the Union Watch Party. Tom Munns joins us now. Good morning, Tom Munns, TomMunns.com, Munns Tom Twitter. Thanks for your patience on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Hey, so a couple thoughts, man. This is kind of a hot issue for me. I'm not a pot guy. I don't really care. I think it should be deregulated personally, and there should be a differentiation between pot and hemp. But here's a couple of things I thought of. First of all, can presidents write law? And they can't. And can the states nullify? And yes, they can. What about if we have neighboring states that have opted to legalize a particular substance and it drives through a state where it happens to be illegal but hasn't been pulled out of the truck? Well, all of a sudden, this creates a big problem for ISP or other places where they have illegal substances. So I go back to the gun laws. I travel on the road all the time. If I happen to go through Washington to get back into Idaho and I carry a firearm, I carry my firearm. Yes, I do. Whether it's illegal in Washington or not, I haven't even gotten out of the car in Washington. Therefore, everything that is in my car is possession of Idaho. So that's another issue. The other issue is let's look at this thing for really what it is. We have a southern border. We have the federal government that refuses to close the southern border. We have the war on drugs. It's obliterated the Fourth Amendment. We've got the big pharmaceutical monopoly, which we all know now that that's what it's really all about. And we have redefined the crime, ever blurring its limitations and ever expanding it in a free country. And here's the thing. The states are superior to the federal government, Kevin, and I can show you the weight of the record of our founders to be able to prove that. And the states absolutely do not have to comply.
I don't think that's true anymore, Tom.
Well, it's really not true anymore, and you've got me over a barrel on that one, I will say, for sure.
I agree with you in theory, but I think you just look at the expansive powers of the executive, thanks to Franklin Delano Roosevelt and others, and one could say President Trump as well. It was never meant to be as powerful as it is, sir.
And I would, if I ran into legislature, I would demand a complete abolition of the administrative state. You know, the FDR-style administrative. I mean, I was talking to a prosecutor yesterday, and he told me, Tom, you're right on. He said administrative policy is not law. Rules are not law. The government can't just redefine something through a bureaucratic agency and somehow make it full force and effective law. So we have a real mess on our hands.
Sadly, it has, though. Look at DACA, which is illegal, unconstitutional. You had a constitutional professor, Obama, when he was president, saying it's not legal, but I'm going to do it anyway.
But we don't have. I mean, some of the callers, and with all due respect, man. I mean, in the way people are. I mean, we know very little about our Constitution. We know very little about law. We know very little about jurisdiction. We know very little about how to define, you know, what law was created to do. And we have people talking about what it's made for. And, you know, I mean, who cares what it's made for? This is not a cost-benefit analysis. Everything that we're relating to right now has a direct connection to whether we're a free people or whether we're an enslaved people. And it goes back to, if this guy was traveling and he has not committed a crime by the very definition of a crime, I'm sorry, but he should have been let go. If he had committed a crime, nail him. But until you commit a crime, you are free to pass, especially if he was in transit between two states.
Well, so you have to wonder.
I believe that, you know, that I feel for the cops. They're in the mess with all kinds of laws that the legislature is creating. The citizens are basically completely uninformed on anything.
Ooh.
So we really are a country with a bunch of chickens with our heads cut off. And
ouch. Thank you, Tom. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Choice. Choice, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Kevin.
Looking forward to what you have to say, sir.
Well, I can say first off that Tom was a great caller. He was right on the point. Number one. Number two. So hemp, marijuana, both are cannabis. Cannabis is a species of plant. I don't know how many people are studied up on their biology, but cannabis is a species of plant. Hemp is a subspecies of it. And hemp, the difference between the two, they look identical. They are identical, basically. Hemp has the seeds. If you want to buy seeds and farm hemp, you have to get certified seeds where they're tested, and they're tested to have only a certain amount of THC in it. It's a very low amount. Basically, it's so low that you could smoke a 1 acre crop of it. You would never get high from it because it doesn't have the THC in it. It may have trace amounts, but it's in so low quantity that you can't get anything from it as far as getting high. That is what the legal definition of hemp is. So when they send it to the lab for testing, I'm sure the cops look at it. They don't know anything. It's not like they went to school and got a degree in biology and understand all the different species and everything else. They say, hey, it looks like pot, smells like pot, let's get it tested. They claim it's a bust, but until the results come back from the lab, if the lab comes back and says it doesn't contain this level of THC in the plant, then it's hemp by legal definition. And so, once again, like Tom said, people are just so ignorant on some of these subjects that they just start spouting off, and just like the cops start spouting off. We don't know. They should just be saying, we don't know what it is yet. It could be hemp. We're sending it for testing.
Choice, appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Yep.
All right, 580-5436. Coming up next, we have Liberal Steve and Max. Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We're joined by Liberal Steve. Good morning, sir.
Buenos dias, Idaho. You were talking, about this bust.
It's over.
And you were asking for an expert. So if we can talk as two adults, two human beings, I know it's for entertainment purposes only.
Before we get going, you have been called out by Max several times. Are you afraid of him?
Kevin, I'm not going to even honor that. To tell you the truth, Max really bores me.
Really?
Yes. So can I go on with appearance here? I don't care about this Max thing.
So if Max were listening right now, what would you say to him?
Listen, Max, and I'll tell you about marijuana, the appearance difference, because that's what the question was about. That's what I'm calling about.
Well, you seem very serious. I mean, usually you insult me or anybody else. I'm just saying, I understand this is very close to your heart. I just want to make sure that I have both sides of the story. Max, what do you think?
Well, I think he may have some good points about the bust. Let's hear what he has to say.
All right. There, the little truce between you two. Go ahead, Liberal Steve.
Okay. Being a professional, you talked about appearance. Number one, let's say right straight out, Idaho State Patrol individuals, male or female, are not stupid. They've been to a lot of classes. They've smelled a lot of different types of cannabis and marijuana. So I would say the bust is legitimate. And number one, they would know right away in the appearance. Okay, because the appearance is the major thing. You're going to know that right. Marijuana looks vastly different from hemp when you observe their leaves, Kevin. Marijuana's shape tends to either be broad or leaf. Now, that's marijuana. And it's got a tight little bud like a hollyhock bud when it dries out. And it's like a little nugget about the size of your fingernail, little finger. And it's got little orange hairs on it, little orange dots. Hemp, on the other hand, Kevin, has skinny, very skinny leaves that's concentrated. And it's so concentrated that you know the difference right away as far as the thinness and the difference. The leaves are concentrated at the top on hemp. Few branches or leaves exist below the top part of the hemp plant. When you observe the plant from afar,
I'm feeling very, very disappointed on this.
Marijuana looks like a short, fat bush. In other words,
well,
Kevin,
look, then we support the Idaho State Police that have busted this guy. According to you, being the quote-unquote expert, it was a good bust.
Yes, it was a good
All
bust.
right, good
because,
enough.
And then the other thing, Kevin, you do not transport hemp the way it was being transported. It's transported just like alfalfa or straw. It's in bales taken to the factories. And coming up now, and it's true, due to the Farm Bill, that our senators, Risch and Crapo, both signed this time, that they didn't in 2015, being stupid then. It'll be going back and forth across the state.
Well, then it will be stopped across the state. Max, do you have anything? We're getting ready for traffic here. It's
I just want to say that what Steve says sounds right, but we need to wait because right now samples of this weed have gone to the state crime lab for testing.
And you two agree on something. Could this be a truce?
Those determine whether or not somebody's going to jail or the cops say, oops, sorry.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Liberal Steve. Sadly, I was hoping they'd yell at each other for entertainment purposes only. It's a way to wake you up on the right side. Traffic and weather together.